the Supply Unchained podcasts. We are your hosts, Leo and Christine.
We are so very excited to welcome Stephanie to our podcast today. She's the co-founder and CEO of Queen of Raw. Queen of Raw is a marketplace to buy and sell unused textiles. Her business successfully turns textile waste into profit. Prior to starting Queen of Raw, Stephanie worked as a corporate lawyer, but after several years in field of law, she found herself called back to textile industry, where her family has been operating for many years. Welcome, Stephanie.
To welcome you today to our episode, and we would love to know your opinion. Do you believe it's possible to achieve 100% transparency connectivity across fashion supply chain?
Oh, that's a good question to start right off the bat with, right? I think 100% sustainable, 100% transparency. Those are powerful words and it's powerful statements. And I think it's fantastic when businesses and organizations come out and say that. We've got all of these initiatives, especially in the fashion industry, working towards 100% circularity and sustainability by 2025 or 2030. By saying that, they are putting a stake in the ground. This is what we stand for, what we believe, right? And this is where we're going. Of course, do we really think that they're going to get there in that short of a period of time? We all may hope so. But the reality of it is probably it's going to take some time and a lot of work and initiatives, especially, right, when you're dealing with these big enterprise corporations and old school ways of doing business and lots of different complex supply chains and complex managing of information and data. But at the end of the day, even if we only get a certain percent of the way there by 2025 or 2030, isn't that still have massive impacts across the world on people and planet? And so to me, even if we only get in the near future a certain percent of the way there, that speaks volumes and it could still have a massive impact. So I'm excited to see where we're going with that.
Will you say there's actually such a valid point, right? Because when we're talking about massive corporations, 50% or 70% of what they do, it's pretty much a massive impact of like if a smaller company does 100%.
Even 1% of some of, the Fortune 500, you bet.
Exactly. So it's great. But do you think then it's possible then for a smaller company, let's say, if it's just a few people together, a small brand or up and coming brand, would you suggest that people that are trying to start something new, they should try to achieve that from the beginning?
I think the reason that they should try to achieve that from the beginning is there are these common assumptions that going circular or going sustainable is automatically going to cost you more money and take more time and resources. And what we actually try to show with Queen of Raw in our business model is it can actually save and make you money while doing good, right? And, when you put out some of these solutions that are sustainable, you have to be able to explain and show the profitability side of it. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the mix. People understand because the focus is on how this does better for people, how this does better for planet. How does this do better for profit? Because if you want, whether you're a small company or a massive company, showing the profitability side of something, how this improves the bottom and the top line, that's critical. Because at the end of the day, no matter how small or large you are a business, right? You are for profit with a social mission. We are too. And we have stakeholders to answer to, investors, customers, the public at large. And so having that triple bottom line, I think, is critical. So yes, to answer your question, for anyone starting a business, yes, but not just because it's for people and planet, also because this is about circular economy. The second word in that, right? It's economy. It's an economic principle. And we can show you how it's going to improve your bottom and top line. And then that's how you grow a business, right?
But will you transfer that to all the way to the final customer? Will you say that the final customer should expect to find a product that is sustainable in a circular economy at a competitive price? Or we need to think, listen, if I'm going to go sustainable, if I'm going to go organic, I am going to pay more and I have to be okay with that.
I love the price question. Two ways to be thinking about this. One is what first, of course, you have to figure out what's your word sustainable mean, right? It means a lot of things to a lot of people, and there's a lot of wonderful different kinds of business models that fit into it. But where we come in, and we're companies like ThreadUp, The Real, Poshmark, Depop, Rent the Runway, right? These are models that actually, with recycle, reuse, repurpose in mind, allow you to find like quality goods at a steep discount, up to like 85% off wholesale. So you as the end consumer who are looking now, and we know the millennials and Gen Zs are passionate about sustainability, and have been driving a lot of this before even the pandemic and everyone waking up to it. They have cared, which is amazing. And they're voting with their dollars because they love these kinds of companies. It allows them to be sustainably minded, but it also saves them money, right? And they can get things at a steep discount. Now, I'll be fair. You're right. You just said organic things, right? Organic cotton for right now does tend on average to cost more than conventional cotton. So that organic cotton t-shirt, yes, when you purchase it at that purchase point, you are going to spend more than a conventional cotton shirt. But guess what? That organic cotton shirt, it also lasts longer.
Yeah.
It's more luxurious. So if you actually reframe your thinking when you make that purchase around how many wears am I going to get out of this? What is the longevity of this product? You're actually paying a huge amount less for that organic cotton t-shirt than the conventional cotton shirt that may be only a few dollars, but you're going to throw away in a few days. And so, but how we communicate that right matters, because when you're a consumer and you're going to a store and you're comparing two products and you've got two price points, your inclination is going to be to go for the less expensive one, right? But if we can figure out, and I think we are now with some really cool supply chain technology like ours, you can actually scan that QR code on the label or the hang tag, see the story up the chain, see the amount of water, toxins, energy, and dollars that will ultimately be saved by you by making that purchase, and you can feel more a part of it. And I think the world is crying out for that now more than ever. And I'll find one final little point. I think the latest, I don't know if it was McKinsey report, was showing people are willing to spend more for this, and maybe not a ton more, but more for this. And so there is value in us rethinking how we make our goods and how disposable they are and how we
I was about to mention that report from McKinsey, right? Because even as we're all going through this global pandemic, which is global, but we don't know how like the market is going to react. So yes, probably now, as of now, we're really looking to stretch our budget, maybe buy the cheapest thing. But the reality is, okay, once we go out of this, if I'm going to buy clothes, maybe I just need to start thinking that, as you said, something I'm going to be wearing longer. I need to move on from this fast fashion of like, I'm just going to wear it once, and because it's so cheap, I'm just going to move on. But, what is a better investment for my money? Because, you're not thinking, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't, so I better buy something at higher quality that I like it, but I'm just going to be using for longer, and and it can match in different circumstances.
I agree. I will say one thing about fast fashion. It obviously is a huge part of the problem, but the beauty of that is that also means it's a huge part of the solution, because to what we started this conversation with, if you can change just 1% of a fast fashion company's way of doing business, the amount of water, toxins, energy, and dollars saved is exponential. And you're right, global, across the world. And so, unlike some people in the sustainability community won't work with fast fashion companies, and I respect everyone to make their own choice. We gladly work with fast fashion companies because I am all about trying to help them build the future supply chain and what we think we're going to have coming out of the pandemic. Because you're right, look around the world right now. Our planet is crying out. People are crying out. This is a time, obviously, that may feel in many ways like of darkness, but in that opportunity and light.
Absolutely.
Because it's opened up and blasted the door, and so many issues that a bunch of it we've all been talking about, but nobody has really felt it or forced the hand, or many people hadn't until now. And so the fact that we're going through this, it is extremely challenging, and we are here to provide support and help each other. But with business models like ours, we can help businesses today survive, because we can help them, identify inefficiencies and waste, sell it and make money. But then what do you do with the money you make? How can we put it into doing better and doing good to that future supply chain, which we've all been talking about, right? but one that is more on demand, more local, more sustainable. And at the end of the day, that means more efficient, and you're going to make and save more money.
Correct.
So,
Everybody's making more money.
win, win, win.
Yeah.
Your business model is literally built from waste into opportunity. So maybe all of us, we can kind of reflect and think, how can we build our waste, our fears into opportunity?
You're right. We've started in fashion because they obviously are a huge consumer of textiles. Textiles can be extremely damaging to the planet, and there's a ton of waste in textile production. I mean, when you're wasting, we've quantified it at around $120 billion with a B a year of wasted inventory. That is huge dollars we're talking about here, but also huge opportunity. And so I always say, although we've started in fashion and textiles, to me, that's just the tip of the iceberg in the beginning.
Right.
Fashion and textiles are just a drop in the bucket, right? This problem affects everyone who has a supply chain, from automotive to aviation, consumer goods and consumer electronics. I mean, you name it. And my theory is, or my idea is, how can we look at all of these supply chains, identify their waste, the biggest waste and the most valuable waste, monetize that waste, and then over time, of course, the goal is use data and tools and technology and minimize those waste streams and inefficiencies. Again, how can we do better? And that's what we're really excited to do. We started our model with a marketplace, a global platform for businesses to buy and sell this waste. But at the end of the day, that's just a Band-Aid, right? That's just helping them sell their waste and slapping a Band-Aid on the problem. But how can we actually heal what's underneath? How can we actually, over time, show that we're minimizing waste and inefficiencies and slowing down the unnecessarily fast rate of textile production? And I think that's where we're going in the future, and what some of the really cool tech tools can help do.
Well, we talked a little bit about it, but I don't know if you have any other favorite myth about the supply chain.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, there are so many common myths about out there about supply chains and sustainability. Definitely one is on the cost, that you think it automatically has to cost you more money to implement. Another common myth, I think, is that we started the conversation with, that you have to either do nothing or go to 100% sustainable and circular. And I think when people make these bold claims, it's powerful. Like I said, they've put that stake in the ground as to what their company believes in. But when you say 100% anything, you kind of automatically scare yourself and get a little stuck in the ground, right? And stuck in the mud. You don't know where to begin on day one to get to that 100%. And so where we like to come in is, yes, getting to 100% is the goal, but let's find the most optimal places where you could start today, and you could do a few percent in that direction. Where's the obvious place to start? And to me, that's with waste, inefficiencies, the gold mine that you're sitting on today that you got that you can use. And then from there, let's grow up and down the supply chain and get to that 100% circularity. But like I said, when you have these big businesses and old school systems and ways of doing things, it takes time, and we have to respect that as a world. At the same time, it's no problem to put pressures and demands on them to start today and make those incentives to going in. And I think that's really exciting. I think there are a lot of amazing initiatives out there that are starting to put those demands on supply chains. I'm sure you're in tune, and we could talk about the changes in the laws that are going on around the world that are powerful. Everything from extended producer responsibility policies in Europe, right? Recycling laws, tariffs, trade wars, even coronavirus. And so knowing that these changes in the laws are coming, to me, it's not just about slapping these businesses with millions of dollars in liability on the books. It's about incentivizing and encouraging better behavior and showing them, here are the solutions like ours that can help you offset this coming legal liability and can give you a place to start improving. And when you do that, I think that's where you really can start to see and nurture the change from within.
Would you like to share some of your favorite recent fashion supply chain initiatives, maybe from your fellow partners around the world, anywhere really?
I mean, I am a huge fan of Nike, and I have been for a long time. They have definitely been leaders in sustainability in so many ways. And I think in their latest earnings report, they just crushed it. When they tagged something as sustainable, and they have a lot of different categories and definitions of what that means, but when they tag anything as sustainable, they see 3 times the online conversion rate. Those are numbers you just can't argue with. Talk about profitability, right? They're exploding through all of this. So for people who say fashion is dead, what's the future look like? I mean, unless we're all going to go naked, we are going to need clothes of some kind. But what they are, how they are made, how we consume them is changing. And Nike is totally in tune with that and empowering that. They actually did an entire collection of shoes out of their own dead stock. And it just boomed in the market too, and had an incredibly powerful story to tell. So I think that's some, real example with real numbers behind it that show that how these models work. One other one that I'll call out that I'm really proud of is Kering. They also, talking about on the luxury haute couture side of things, they have put out and published their EP&L policies and their business model, and showed how much money they have saved and made by adopting sustainable practices and how their bottom line is affected. And they literally give you the blueprint. You can print their model and see what they've done and start to embody that in your own corporation. So I think, again, two powerful, big organizations that show how much this is possible.
I don't know if it makes sense, but I think that what's going on right now in the fashion industry, it's similar to what happened to the food industry a few years ago, right? That all of a sudden, places like Trader Joe's became, like very popular. People were like, you know what, I want to eat more healthier, but you don't even know what the definition of healthier is. So all of a sudden, you start people slapping words like, free range, sustainable, free, whatever, vitamins, and because people are like, oh, it has vitamins, so I guess it's fair that I can pay more for it, right? And then all these studies came actually, well, the word vitamin there is an overstatement, like I don't think it has vitamins, or like free range, it's questionable. So do you think that, I think that definitely the market is there. Again, people will be willing to spend a little bit more. They see the word organic, then they jump on it. If I see the same product, organic versus regular, I go for organic. That's good, But is the industry behind or ahead of that curve? Are we kind of slapping the name first and then figuring out how to get there?
I think obviously we learn from history, right, and make predictions about the future. And when we were looking in my company at different models, we called ourselves Queen of Raw intentionally because of raw materials, right? That's what we're interested in. But when I said that name to some people before we actually had officially named the company, it was the first name we ever thought of. They said, oh, are you talking about the raw foods movement? And I said, you know what? I love that that's what you think of too, because you're right. Historically, we have bought into and understand the value of farm to table and of the raw foods movement, right? And how important it is to understand and know the ingredients that we put into our body to fuel our body every day. And for so long, I've wondered, why haven't we done the same with clothes? These are materials that touch us and our kids' skins all day long, just like the food we eat. What's touching our organ, right? Our skin, our largest organ, all day long, needs to be safe. It needs to have ingredients where you can read the label. And same as with the foods movement. If you read that label on that shirt and you don't understand some of the things that went in, it's not just cotton, or, like maybe you want to think a little bit about what you're putting on your skin and make sure it doesn't harm you or your kids. And I think you're right to that point. We are going there. I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, especially in fashion when it comes to labeling, so that we can get to the level of the FDA and food ingredients. We definitely need to do more. But again, the cool thing is, with everyone waking up to this issue and consumers demanding it, is the changes are going to come. We are seeing more smart labeling systems, right? Where you can scan that label or read that detailed hang tag and understand more about the history, who it came from, where it went to. Now you can even scan some of these labels and see all the way up the chain to the farmer who sheared the sheep, right? And to me, that just opens the doors of what is possible. The challenge has been historically for fashion, unlike food, fashion supply chains are so complex. I mean, hundreds of steps across the globe, right? Metric tons of water, chemicals, crops, and oil used in the process. Food is complicated too, but I think with fashion, it has gotten so many tiers deep that people lost sight of what was even going on in their own supply chains. And that's where I think we're at this massive opportunity with some of our enterprise customers. They go down to a tier 14 supplier. And talk about not knowing what's going on in your tier 1 or tier 2 contracted suppliers, going down to a tier tier 14
It's a
and
rabbit
knowing
hole.
what's going on. We forget about it until now.
Yeah.
With technology, you can know instantly now what's going on. And that means with the data, you can just do better.
We
Yeah.
would love to hear more about your technology and how it's actually enhancing for our listeners to really be able to kind of tune into your business model.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with that. You know what, like I said, when we started the business, we built it at this open global marketplace. And if you go to queenofraw.com, that's very much our B2C marketplace for typically 250 yards or under of unused fabric. Anyone from a student maker, crafter, quilter to a smaller, medium-sized brand can go on and buy and sell their textiles, keep it out of landfill, and obviously turn that what would have been pollution into profit. But over time, we realized, especially for our larger enterprise customers, there was a lot more we could do. They have hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands to now hundreds of thousands of SKUs of inventory that they're trying to track. And going down to a tier 14 supplier, some of this information has been getting lost.
Mhm.
So we now built a kind of software and tools that live behind Queen of Raw for the larger enterprise customers. And with these tools, you know, we leverage the fun stuff like blockchain and machine learning AI. But at the end of the day, how we built it, it doesn't really matter. It's what it does for our customers that matter. It helps them in real time identify the waste they have in their supply chains. Now they can automatically, with the click of a button, put that into Queen of Raw's marketplace. And now that we have all this data in one place about what's going on in their supply chain, over time, it starts to make intelligent predictions over how they can minimize those waste streams going forward. And we'll track in a dashboard from an app on their phone, things like the amount of water, toxins, energy, and dollars saved by leveraging Queen of Raw solution as opposed to manufacturing new. And I'll take it one fun step farther. We now can connect that story to the QR code or RFID thread in a finished good. So when you buy that shirt as a consumer, scan it and see it was made with certified Queen of Raw dead stock. You just saved this amount of water, toxins, and energy, and it came from here, it went here, and all of that is transparent. And honestly, talking about where we're going, I think that's the future. You know, putting aside people's opinions that they may or may not have on blockchain, I think in the future, everything is going to be tracked and traced to some level. You're going to have to for your business to operate, but it also means we're going to know more about what's going on. And that only means that we can unlock a lot of possibility to do better.
I mean, there's so many big brands who tried, like we both are coming from Li and Fung background, and they tried it many, many years before. So I'm super, super happy to see that you are succeeding and taking it to way further levels than they imagined that time.
I appreciate that. And, you know, obviously I follow and very closely, and I'm very aware of how powerful Li and Fung has been in the work that they've done in fashion and in supply chain technology now, and building a more robust model to help their customers do better. And it makes complete sense. But I think you're right. This buzzword blockchain that's kind of been out there for a while, and 100% transparency, for those who have tried to do it, it almost felt overwhelming and too much. How are you going to, if you don't know your tier 14 supplier, how are you going to even start to think about tracking everything from farm to finished good to end of life? What we do and where we came in is we'll give you the place to start. This is the place you start today to survive. And then we'll show you over time, going up and down the chain, how you can thrive tomorrow. And to me, that's the way you have to, because otherwise, like we said, it's almost overwhelming to the point of you can't do it, right? How do you do it? And so we work very hard with our technology to make it very quick and nimble and lean. It doesn't matter, you know, if you're on AWS or Microsoft Azure. It doesn't matter if
the
you're
technology
using,
at the end of the day just is there to make something happen, but the intention and the process needs to be there.
Yes, it does, and has to be nimble and easy and usable and integrated into their existing business practices. This isn't about overhauling your system overnight. This is about what can sit on top and help you do better with what you've got.
Would you mind to give us this amazing speech you did, like a 1-minute pitch? I just love it so.
That is so sweet of you. Well, I'll give you a little bit of context for it for those who may not know. We were given the opportunity to pitch Ashton Kutcher, Gary V, P. Diddy on stage in front of a huge live studio audience. The caveat was we had 60 seconds to do it. And so, you know, typically as entrepreneurs, you've got your half-hour pitch, you've got your 15-minute pitch, you got your 7-minute pitch, you even have a 4-minute pitch. But 60 seconds to pitch your entire business. But I have to say, it was the hardest thing I have ever done in my business to date. And it was the single most valuable and important thing I have probably ever done to date. Yeah. Because if you can get that thing down into 60 seconds and make somebody care, especially when you're dealing in supply chain, right? Textiles, fashion, and stuff. If you can get people to care and understand it, I think it can be very valuable. So happy to do the pitch. It is something that has stuck with me very true, very closely. And I will say one final thing before I do it. As I was practicing leading up to this day, I was pushing the stroller in the New York City noise one afternoon, and I hear coming out of the stroller these words, and I lean over, and it's my 4-year-old son, and he's saying, "Are you naked right now? You're not." He's doing my pitch. And I said, you know what? If my 4-year-old can get it, anyone in the world can understand these world problems and how we can change the world. So
it's catchy.
I will try it out at home.
Yeah, no. All right. I'm happy to do it. Let's see if I still got it. Are you naked right now? You're not, because you're using fabric. It's everywhere. It's where it's supposed to be, covering things like us. And it's where it's not supposed to be, sitting in warehouses around the world, just waiting to be burned or buried. And I know about this problem because my family has been in the fabric business for over 100 years. Queen of Raw's marketplace matches buyers and sellers of unused fabric, keeping it out of landfill and turning that pollution into profit. And we've already saved over 1 billion gallons of water doing it, and we're just getting started. I'm doing this for my 4-year-old son. I want him to have clean water to drink, clothes that aren't toxic to wear, and a planet to live on. My name, it's Stephanie Benedetto, and I'm the Queen of Raw. It's a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it is about, we have to all, right, believe in what we're doing, have heart, and have that bold vision to change the world. Sometimes that's what it takes, right?
I love it. It's truly inspirational, and really, it as you said, right? It's like if you have 14 minutes, you can think 1 minute and then talk 14. But if you need to give like a pitch in 60 seconds, you need 4 months to think about it, like to really make sure that you have the hooks, that you get the right message, and it really works. So congratulations for that. Talking about learnings, and again, you really sound like a very inspirational person that has been in the industry, worked a lot. So we want our listeners and viewers on YouTube to be able to learn from our guests, not only in their success, but also in their failures and their learnings. What do you think has been your key learning from a challenge or a failure in the past?
Yeah. It's interesting when I look at kind of the history and the trajectory of what got me here. I had a prior startup called Paper Number 9. And we had invented a new leather alternative. And it really hit a note in the market years ago when innovation in textiles, sustainability was just starting to get talked about. And it started taking off. And I would go to all of our customers, and I was really proud of what we were doing, right? We had a leather alternative there that we were selling them, but we were still making something new. And I would go to all these factories and warehouses and mills around the world and see all this perfectly good stuff just sitting there that was going to be burned or landfilled while they were buying our leather alternative. And I'd say, what about this stuff too? And there are all these designers dying to get their hands on this stuff. It just seemed like a supply-demand mismatch. So I always had that in the back of my head. Now, as we were building the business, it came to a point where my co-founder and I had to either raise around, build up big factories, and start to meet some of the bigger orders we were getting, or we had to move on. And at that point, my co-founder decided that for her and for her choice, she was happy keeping it a smaller artisanal textile shop and didn't want to go big. And for me, the future vision is go big or go home. I want to build the greatest and biggest things in the world and change the world. So, do I talk about that as a failure or learning? It was an opportunity for me to learn about startup world. And it's also what exposed me firsthand to the problem that I then set about solving, which is where we are today. So, for anyone working on startups or working on supply chain challenges, you're going to have challenges every day. We all do. I continue to do, right? But I think part of being an entrepreneur is pushing through those challenges, learning from them, but growing and moving and iterating. And whether that becomes starting a new business or looking at a different type of a business model, as long as you're iterating, improving, and growing with your vision, you are going to be the last player in the market to dominate. So go get it.
Wow. Even that sounded like a pitch. I don't know. Like,
sorry,
it has not been rehearsed. This is really just.
No, this is, I appreciate it very much. But that's it, right? We need to inspire each other, support each other, today more than ever. That's what supply chains are. They're connected chains, and it requires everyone in the chain. Or if there's a break in the chain, you got a problem. So we need each other.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I always go back to it's my favorite in the world right
Oh,
now.
I
I,
love you.
I gotta say, she has sent it to me a few times. Like, you need to see this. You need to see this. And then she was like so excited. We're gonna have her in the podcast. We're gonna. So that is true. But I gotta say it's true.